Okay, hi. I wanted to talk about my ex Jehovah's Witness story today. I've been thinking about doing these videos for a very long time. I don't know how this is gonna go. Today is just a test. I wanted to just put it on camera, generally see how my speaking skill is, my type, my language, see how she goes, see if I can do it with the little notes that I've taken, the memory that I have, with the mental health that I'm currently in. So I guess to begin, this will be a video based on my story. It'll probably be very long. It'll be one of the longer story videos just because I really want to explain the dynamic. The strong dynamic of why everything happened the way it did, why I left at such a young age, why I was able to leave at such a young age. I'm currently 20 years old, living on my own. I left at 14 years old. So I'd have to go back into the basic history before I even get into it. The Jehovah's Witness history of my family, the first member would have been my grandma. So my mom is the second of four children. When my grandma was pregnant for the last child, she left my grandfather, who from Alberta, traveled by train, I'm pretty sure, all the way back to Ontario where she grew up, and moved into her parents' home in Chelmsford, Ontario, because she had nowhere else to go. My grandpa was extremely abusive. I know he was like physically abusive. He was cheating on her as well. I know my oldest uncle walked in on him with another woman. It's some crazy story like this, but anyways, some of the reasons why he was eldest when a lot of the bad things happened in my grandma's transition and journey, that he is actually the strongest of my JW family to this day. He is an elder in his congregation, in a congregation a couple hours away from my home, so they're not even very close to where I am currently. But enough to say, she moved back home, and I'm pretty sure that's when the Jehovah's Witnesses found her at a vulnerable time, obviously. She had nothing. She was, I'm pretty sure, a teacher, but that didn't continue because all through my life, my grandma had, I don't know, she was a very homemaker. She was very healthy, natural kind of person. That's what I think of when I think of my grandma. And she worked a lot of part-time jobs like bargain stores, retail, when I was very young, a little bit more like in the retail, just a lot of part-time jobs. She's has a schedule of her own. She's very zealous, obviously. I think that may be why her school teacher days didn't last, because of her transition to becoming a witness, or having become a witness. But anyways, so she became a witness. She got the generosity. Everybody was super great. They found her a place, apartment, whatever. She moved in with other witnesses. I don't really know how that worked. They all started attending meetings. My grandma was studying. She got baptized, found my grandpa. He, I guess, would technically be my step-grandpa because my mom's dad lives in Alberta, and I call him Grandpa Keith when he comes to visit. But she found my grandpa. He is my grandfather that I know and love as my grandfather, who raised my mom and her siblings as the amazing people that they turned out to be. But anyways, she found him. He was a witness. I'm pretty sure his parents were witnesses, so his entire family was witnesses from like northern Ontario, and like a great long line of, so like at least since the 40s or 50s. That's a big deal because I think that really strengthened my grandma's zeal. He had obviously a very great zeal and believed this was the truth. This is all he'd ever known. He'd followed it literally since the 40s, 50s, and his parents and his whole family and all. But anyways, that strengthened my grandma's zeal, and he made a lot of changes around the house by my mom's two youngest brothers, she's the only girl. I know they had a lot of issues with the way my grandpa was so strict, and like if they were singing at the dinner table, my mom told me stories about how he would make them go all the way to the end of the yard during dinner and sing as loud as they can all through dinner. Like, just, it was just a punishment. Like, he had weird punishments, and he would use corporal punishment, obviously, because that was used on him in school, at home. It was acceptable in those times. They didn't see it as acceptable in those times. Obviously, I don't know, it's cruel. So, because of all this, eventually my mother left at the age of 16. She was the first, like me, in my family to leave. So she is the only one who really knows how I feel, except for she had grandparents and aunts and uncles and cousins and family who were never witnesses and who'd been there her whole life. Obviously, they'd taken her mom in when she was young, and they'd lived with them for, you know, months or whatnot. So she had this extended family that I didn't have when I left. She left at 16 to party up, I guess. I don't know. The reason she left was more so scriptural, or more so just wanting to be free. Like, she just needed the freedom. She had some friends that were in the truth, that were living double lives. I know, and my uncles, the younger uncles, also did, and they ended up leaving later on as well, at young ages, like me, because of problems with brothers. Also, I don't think my mom ever had any problems within the church or with any people, just like me. My uncles did. They had done things that they were actually reprimanded for. They were never baptized, they were just publishers, but they were reprimanded in a certain degree, that brothers or elders had even told them like that they would never come of anything, nothing good would come of my uncles, because they were just bad boys, they were bad kids. And so that really damaged their psyche, and they obviously felt a moral wrong, and that wouldn't be something that God would promote. Like, God's spirit would never say that to someone. Anyways, I don't know. We don't talk of these things. This is all just stories that I've repressed and suppressed in my head. I've tried to write it all down. That's why I've been, like, journaling like crazy, just to get it all out and see if I can remember as much as I possibly can. It's really funny because the beginning of this book has old witness notes in it. It was an old book from an assembly book. Anyways, so my mom left, my uncles left, my mom partied. She ended up meeting my dad. I'm pretty sure they already knew each other all through school. I was a product of failed birth control, let's just say. My mother had just turned 19 when she had me. My dad turned 19 in January. They're the same age, a few months apart. And I think they were living together, but my mom had kicked her out at some point. After she had me, it was like there was a moral switch that went off, and she all of a sudden, how she explained it to me was just like, all of a sudden she just knew, like, it never mattered to her that she needed to be saved, but now she knew that was still the truth, and that she needed to save me. So the reason that she even went back ever was because of me, and I love my mom. I think I just realized that, saying that out loud right now, because she put herself through that again, knowing that that's not right. Because of me, she just never woke up to the truth, that it wasn't the real, true organization. She still believes that, and that's the only way to be saved. But anyways, the moral switch, the moral compass, all of a sudden was pointing north, and she was telling my dad, I can't live with you outside of marriage. We already had a baby. The only way that I can live with you and be with you is if we get married. Like, this isn't right. So my dad's mom, who's Catholic, my entire dad's family, I'm pretty sure, was all pretty Catholic, um, kind of just told her, like, you know what, if that's all she wants, just marry her. You love her, just marry her. So I was 2 years old when my parents got married. And to give a little background on my dad's, his family, I guess, a little bit. He was raised Catholic. He's the youngest of 4 siblings, all from different dads. I don't think he was ever very close to many of his siblings. They were all older by the time he was around. He, I guess, was a very hermit, just a very smart, logical person all through. He raised Catholic, never believed in that, but I don't know what it was that got my mom and him together. I don't really know my mom, I guess. I don't really know either of them, so I don't really know why they got together, but they got together, and he married her when I was 2. She was Catholic. Then products of failed birth control. Number 2 and 3, my brothers and sisters, Reese and Rory. I was 5 years old when my brother Reese was born, and then 7 years old when my little sister Rory was born. And I'm pretty sure that enticed a lot of fights between my parents. They've broken up a few times that I remember during my childhood, because of my dad was accusing my mom of cheating, because we were all products of failed birth control. There was no way my mom could have gotten pregnant, but she did, and we all are my father's children, obviously. She wasn't cheating on him. She was a devout witness. By this time, after my brother was born, she got baptized, so at age 22. She got baptized, and we were all then being raised as Jehovah's Witnesses, but with an unbelieving father. So, she just thought, like, I had a baby with this kid, I had to stay, with this guy, I have to stay with him. Obviously, I love him, and this is just my life now. I made this decision. All I can do is work my hardest to convert. So that's what we did. We always were trying to convert my dad. I remember them having Bible discussions all the time. Him with my grandparents, even with my uncle, with my other uncles. My uncles would have them with my grandparents. I've saw all through my childhood, knew that if we didn't make a change, then my Uncle Jesse and my Uncle Aaron was going to die. My cousin Naomi and my Uncle Aaron's daughter was going to die. My dad at Armageddon was going to die. Like, they were not going to live forever. And it was heartbreaking. It was so heartbreaking. And it's so hard. The fear-mongering is insane. But anyways. We just knew he was going to die. So I remember being encouraged to tell Dad things like, I just love you, like, I wish can you just come to the meeting, or come to the memorial, like, trying to encourage him to just come to bigger events, because I love you, we love you, and we don't want you to die, right? Like, we don't want you to die, Dad. I'm just trying to find my notes now about my dad and stuff, so, we would attend family gatherings on my father's side, if they weren't holiday related, obviously, but I never got to know them all very well. And even on my mom's side, we would attend those family gatherings, the family reunion style gatherings, because we were so many. My grandma's extended family, there are 13 children and my 2 great grandparents, and like so much extended family that, of course, there's only so many times a year we can all get together. We would try to do it every summer or every other summer for the great grandpa's Lepage's birthday, and every Christmas or New Year's, it would alternate every year so that everybody could make it, with partners and everything, and alternate families and all whatnot. But eventually, as they became, so obviously in these reunion style gatherings, there would be a little part where we would, pass the cake around and sing like happy birthday grandpa, or there would be a little like holiday gift exchange, but most of it was just 2 days of sliding and barbecue and, potluck dinner and just spending time with the family, board games, songs, singing, camping. A lot of it is just spending time as a family, and we would do even hockey tournaments and skate rinks on the ice. And eventually, with the fear mongering, my mom and grandma slowly stopped. Well, my grandma stopped attending, so then started getting to my mom more and more. My mom stopped attending, and then with my dad, he was always really wanting to celebrate holidays with us. He felt very robbed of that. Like it was the only way he really actually knew how to love, or to show his love for us, really was to be around the holidays and to spend those significant times with us, because I think that's all he had when he was a child. Um, so I think that's why my personal relationship with my father was affected, and my siblings as well, and why he was so affected as a father and his role as a father. But anyways, we then also his parents wanted to celebrate holidays with us, so we would go over to my dad's parents, my parents' house. They lived down the street from us, coincidentally. We would go over like a day before or a couple days after Christmas or our birthdays, so as to not like actually celebrate it. And as we grew up, my mom's conscience started to get bothered, and she started to try to build our conscience and make it more of our personal decision and about our personal relationship with Jehovah, whether we would accept the gifts or not, and what restrictions we would place, like not singing happy birthday, not having a cake, or even telling my parent that, sorry, now at this point I actually am uncomfortable receiving any gifts at all. I do appreciate it, I love you, but if we're going to receive gifts, it'll be like, just for anything. Like, I don't want gifts for, she would start to place it on her conscience, and I don't know, it was so hard, like, to have to tell them. I don't even know if I ended up ever telling them that I didn't want gifts, when I know my siblings have, and it's funny to see now the effects. But anyways, it's odd. All of this going, like all of this progressing, my mom is still like a single sister in the congregation, okay? She now has 3 children, boom, boom, boom. She baptized, but she's still a single sister, trying so hard to convert my father, and, consistently raising her children in the truth. We were going in field service as often as we could. She obviously couldn't pioneer, she couldn't auxiliary. My mom's a hairdresser, so she was working in hair salons and stuff, but her mental health started decreasing and decreasing and decreasing. She eventually had a mental breakdown, couldn't work for a full year, and that caused a lot of tension between my parents as well. They were fighting a lot, it started getting violent. I think my dad just didn't know what to do anymore. He didn't know how to save this relationship, and eventually the split happened. My mom picked us up from school on a Friday afternoon, which is odd because usually why not just take the bus. And we actually went shopping for winter clothes. It was like winter outdoor clothes or something, like ski pants and boots for playing outside and whatnot. And we got home, and I remember she went to her bedroom, and the phone rang. She answered the phone, and I heard her talking to one of her friends. And I just walked by the hallway in her bedroom door, and I heard her say, like, yeah, I haven't told the kids yet. And I just remembered her, like, hearing, I haven't told the kids yet. And at 8 years old, I remember when I was 8 years old, I was now 11, we left my dad another time. We spent one night in a homeless shelter and spending 2 weeks at my grandparents' house until eventually going back home. And that was the most prominent memory of separation from my father that I remember. But I knew that things were going bad, and I just heard those words from my mom, and I knew. It was like the weirdest feeling ever. I remember thinking in my head, no, there's no way we're going back there. There's no way this is happening again. Like, I can't imagine that's what's going on right now. And my mom got off the phone, she came to the living room, and she ended up indeed telling us to pack a bag for at least a week or two's time, full of clothes or whatnot, and that we would be going back to the shelter. I was so upset. I remember being so upset. There was something in me. I just knew. I was the oldest. I guess I was 11. I had an understanding. I was in grade 6 at this point. It was winter because it was January 10th of 2008. I remember exactly the date. I remember everything we did that day. I remember I was so upset that I told my mom that she couldn't stop me from calling my school friends because I wasn't going to see them for the whole weekend. I had to tell them. They were my true friends. I had to tell them. And I was bawling. I couldn't control myself. I called one of my friends and she was trying to console me. I didn't know why. I don't remember why I didn't want to call my witness friends. All the witnesses in our congregation were quite older than me. There weren't very many young ones at that time. I wasn't very close to any witnesses my age. I didn't have very many best friends. I was always very isolated and kind of rebellious. Seeing a lot of the controversy and the fights and the arguments, like the Bible arguments and like debates that my parents would have, and my uncles too, like I always kind of had a lot of logic against the witnesses and the doctrine going through my mind, but I just knew this is my life. I'm following my mom. This is my life. But I always I just had this want to celebrate birthdays and hang out with friends that weren't, like go on school trips without my freaking mom. And because nobody else needed their mom at the pool, I was the only one whose mom had to come to the freaking pool, even though it was just a day trip. Mom had to come to the pool. It was so embarrassing, but I love my mom, obviously. But anyways, as a child, it's embarrassing. And I always, Valentine's Day at school, doing those crafts for Christmas, and, why can't you just do it like everybody else? And anyways, I always had this need, so I remember telling my mom that day that I was for sure calling them, and we spent 2 months in a homeless shelter, all the while going to the meetings, going to school, in grade 6. My sister was 3 years old, not even in school yet, which means my brother was 5 or 6. He must have been 6. And Rory was 3. And they called it the hotel because they didn't know that it was a homeless shelter. So after that, the split was official, but obviously my mom couldn't. We moved back into our home when he finally gave it up, and he finally signed over the van. She wasn't working very much by this point because of her anxiety still. She was trying to work as much as she could to support us. He was also on strike with work because of a big situation in the mines that happened here. One of our main mines went on strike for about a year and a half, and there were 9 men wrongly fired during that time. My dad was one of them, and my parents were divorced at the time, so she didn't know he was fired. He was supposed to go back to work when the strike ended. She was expecting him to go back to work and for child support to commence because she needed it. She was now a single mom of 3 with a house and 1 vehicle, she was a hairdresser in a nursing home at this point, and then it's really hard to talk about this. It's really weird. It's hard to even remember everything that happened. So my mom had to wait for a scriptural divorce, which meant that my father had to be with another woman before, like, while they were separated, before she could file for divorce. So when that happened, when we saw another vehicle in his driveway overnight, my mom filed for divorce. She had already started, by this time it was a year and a half, she started dating a brother who brought my best friend, my step siblings, into my life, which I'm very fortunate for. But it was hard at the time, very hard at the time. Especially because my father was just living down the street. I hated him. I hated him because of the way he treated my mom. He would come pick up my siblings for dinner, because by this time I wasn't visiting anymore. I was 11 or 12. And he'd like fishtail back down the street, just so mad. I remember one time he was picking them up and my mom was doing garden work or something, and he was so mad, and she was just trying to discuss, like, I don't remember what it was, like just terms or plans to pick up the kids, or who's going to drop them off later or whatnot, or what they were doing that evening. And he shoved her, and the way that he shoved her, the garden tool she was holding ended up just accidentally touching his truck. So he grabbed my mom's arm and like threw her almost like up the stairs, and like she started crying or whatnot. And I remember just seeing this, and then my dad left like so violently back down the street to his house without the kids that he was picking up because of this entire situation. And so I ran down the street after his truck and made sure that I got there before he even got into the house. And I was like, you can't, I just remember started yelling at him. I was like, you can't treat my mom like that. You can't touch my mom like that. Why would you do that in front of us? Like, you don't understand what it's doing. And I remember he was just so upset that he grabbed my arm and just said, get off my deck, and yanked me off and left a bruise on my arm. And I hated him so much, and that was the start of CIS, and I just wasn't visiting. It got to a point where I would hear my grandma on the phone with my mom yelling profanities, and I would grab the phone, like my dad's mom, and I was maybe 12, 13 by this point, and I would say, you can't talk to my mom like this. Like, I was just her advocate. I was her only friend. I don't know why. I knew so much about what was going on. But I just knew. I knew. And it wasn't just because she was sharing everything. I'd seen my dad flip bowls of soup on my mom. I'd seen my dad throw remotes. I just hated him. And he was never around as a kid. And I think that's what also pushed me to be so rebellious. I just needed that love from him, from a parent. I was getting it from my mom. My mom was amazing, the most maternal person in the whole world, thank God. But she was a witness, and I needed my dad, and that's what got me to then when I started into middle school, leading a double life and with the little boyfriends and whatnot. It got me into a lot of trouble. But I just needed my dad. Oh. So, anyways, like I said, I was going to school. Now I was in a middle school attached to a high school with other witnesses in it, but like I said, they were older than me, not ever very close. So, sorry. Sorry. Not ever very close. So, I was very close friends with my friends from school, and there was another girl whose parents got disfellowshipped when she was only 2 years old, so she was never really raised in the truth, but she had an aunt who was still very much so in truth, and was still friends with my mom, so I would see her every once in a while at the meetings, and we were in classes together in school, so we became very close friends, and along with other girls. But by the age of 14, I was now in grade 9, high school. I had a little boyfriend. I had gotten my belly button pierced behind my mom's back. My dad had signed for it, and we were arguing a lot. I had a lot of questions on doctrine, like always. I always had questions on doctrine. But I kind of always, I just numbed it because my mom was my best friend. I always wanted to be with my mom. I always pleased my mom. But I remember her telling me when she would find out about little boyfriends and like things like this that like she would cry with me and just say like, I can't attend your wedding if you are gonna be marrying a non-witness. If you leave and you marry a non-witness, like because of what I've been through, I can't support that and I can't attend your wedding. I love my mom, but these things scarred me. They really did. It's more of the fear-mongering and the brainwash and the control that they tried to instill in my mom so badly that she felt her conscience couldn't allow her to eventually attend my wedding if I would leave, which I did. Hey there, Miss Candy. This is my kitty cat, Cammy. She's Cuddle Bear. Anyways, I really didn't want to get emotional. I don't even know if I'm posting this. I just needed to get it on tape and see what I could do. I'm gonna keep going. So 14 years old, yeah, what happened? We were getting into lots of fights. I had gotten a cell phone in the day. My mom had gotten a new cell phone, and for a day we had the same number. So I was hiding people from school's numbers and talking about my belly button piercing and talking about my little boyfriend. So that entire day, she was getting all of my text messages and found out about some things that I was obviously hiding. And she went to my room and found a journal that I was keeping and read through the whole journal and pulled me out of school that day, drove me home, and told me to lift my shirt, take out my belly button, and flush it down the toilet. And we had Bible studies, and there was lots of yelling. There was a lot of, I don't know, it was bad. I knew it was bad. And I was just so done. I packed a bag. I remember I had already asked my dad. I'd started visiting my dad again by this point, and I had asked him if it was okay if I could move in with him. And I never told my dad that I forgave him for anything that happened. I just kind of started visiting him again, and I just said, like, it's time to move on with my life. So I knew that was the only way. That was the only way that I could not be a witness anymore. And for some reason I thought that would help. I don't know. I just wanted to be my own person. I was just, I was very into music at the time, and there was a composition group through my school that I couldn't participate in. I remember grade 9, first day of school, I thought I had enrolled myself into a regular music class, but I actually was in this composition group, and that first 2 weeks was preparing your audition to perform in front of the teachers to then see if you could make it into this group. And I was so scared. I remember I prepared an entire audition, and I was like, I can't even do this anyways. I auditioned. I don't know, I was too nervous that I skipped out of the class. And then that was the grade 9 that I left. I remember I just wanted to be part of it. That was a big thing, and I had a boyfriend, and his family was really great and really normal and just really loving, and I think it opened my eyes to what unconditional love was, and I knew that wasn't my dad, but I needed to live somewhere while I did all this. So I packed a bag. My mom found the bag. She hid it. And then when we were fighting some more, I found the bag. And I remember sneaking out of a basement window. And my brother, he was 9. He came down the stairs and he was looking at me. climbing out of this window with a bag. And I looked at him and I said, I'm sorry that you're here, but I love you so much. I'm just going to Dad's. I love you. And I'm gonna see you when you come visit Dad, okay? And he hugged me and I climbed out the window. And I just remembered thinking, I am traumatizing him right now. Now, what has been done to me, I am doing to him because this is an event in his life that he is going to remember. Because I was leaving, like, that was so crazy bad, and I knew I didn't want to go back. I didn't know what the heck was gonna happen, but I knew I didn't want to go back. The next year in school, I got into that music program. And I was part of it for the rest of high school. And I performed in my graduation. I won a competition here that I wouldn't have been able to be part of till I would have been 19 at 17 years old. But that's where music ended for me after school. Till we'll see. I have my whole life, but I made it into that music program. And I graduated high school by myself. And I haven't been to college yet, but I will get there. It's now 6 years after I left. I'm 20 years old. And it's just in the past 6 months that I've really woken up. I think I always still believed that it was the true religion. I'm not really even sure, like, if I ever believed that. I just think that I didn't wake up anyways. I was following, on Facebook, actually, the recovery group, number 3, I think that's what it's called, Jehovah's Witness Recovery Group 3. I would follow it, but a month into, like, just casually, occasionally checking out the posts, I would have to stop because it would make me sick. And I would recognize this, but once I finally moved into my first apartment on my own, ta-da, which looks like crap right now because of my Great Who poster covering my window, but I swear that's the only window covered by poster. There's actually a window right here that has nice blinds. Anyways, until I moved into my apartment alone is when I started really doing my research. Really, I got back onto that recovery group and it was making me feel things that I knew I couldn't ignore anymore. And through this whole period of time, 15 years old, started my first job. That's when I developed anxiety, and that's when my mental health obviously started decreasing, anxiety, depression, and all of the above. I didn't know why. I was always like just fighting, like why? My mom obviously had a mental breakdown, was dealing with anxiety in my entire life, so I always just thought like maybe it's my genes, like I'm just anxious, that's gonna be it. And then I thought maybe it's because of my dad, because I never had a father figure support, but I think that's more why I tend not to have healthy relationships, and not why well, could be. I have abandonment issues, and it could be partly because of my father, but also because at 14 years old I left the Witnesses, and I was never baptized, see, and I didn't completely lose contact with my parents or my family, but it's been significantly different since I left. My siblings are standoffish with me. still. Like, I don't know, not too bad. My brother he's 16 now, and he's standoffish with me. Can tell that he has a hard time even just being himself, and when we talk, it's like talking to someone I don't really know. They're both homeschooled. My step-siblings are fine. They've always had their mom on the side. Their mom was disfellowshipped, so they always kind of just followed the rules when they were at my mom's house, their dad's house. They would go to the meetings with them when we went, but they would do birthdays and everything else on their own time, and so they're fine. They're my best friends. I'm really just worried for my siblings, worried for the rest of my family. I feel as though my grandparents have already committed, obviously made their decision, and this is their life. This will always be their life. But my mom has left at one point in time, and it might have been because of outside influence, but maybe now I can be that outside influence. Me and my stepsister Chloe. We'll see. I really love watching YouTube videos. Not really love it, actually. I feel compelled. I feel like something draws me to them because I don't know, storytelling feels like it heals my soul. I feel like I can relate to people and discover things about myself that I have a hard time discovering on my own because of the mental illness blocks that I've developed. I got into substance abuse, a lot of marijuana since I've left, and I'm still dealing with it. I'm still trying to slow down or stop because it's obviously a roadblock, and it's disabling me from living my full life that I left to do. So it's a coping mechanism that I'm trying to shake, and I don't want to say this is the first step. This is probably like the 20th step in my recovery so far, but I really wanted to share my story, and as kind of broken and bitty, and I don't even know if you guys will understand the greatness of all of it, but I think I might do other videos on things that have happened to me since I've left, how I was actually treated by certain people after I left, because it was at such a young age. I left and everybody knew right away. All my friends stopped talking to me. Some of my friends were like, what's going on? But I was like, I just don't want to be a witness anymore. And that was it. I just never saw them again. Some of them eventually left, and I became friends with them for a short period of time, and I don't know if any of them have woken up to the real truth about the witnesses in history and the things that they're hiding about sexual abuse and the NGO UN membership issues and just other lies and cover-ups. But anyways, I've woken up to these things, and I wanted to do my part by raising awareness or by just sharing my story so that anybody else can relate. I want to do more. Just gonna wait and see what the response is, or if people even watch it, make it to the end. But I think I'll try to cut it now so that we can make it through. We can survive, maybe finish it, and see if people can actually. I don't know. We'll see. Wow. I'm just gonna stop now. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. If you've made it this far, like I said, and just keep trucking. Suppressed to know more.